Greetings everybody and welcome to Madrid Ball. Hope you all are safe and sound. Today in this video we will do the tactical analysis of Real Madrid versus Inter Milan. So let's do this. Firstly, let's speak a bit about our lineup. Obviously we had Courtois at goal, then we saw Mendy in the left back position and Vasquez at right back. Ramos and Varane as expected were our centre back pairing. In the midfield we had Kroos, Casemiro and Valverde, and then up front we had Hazard, Asensio and Benzema. Pretty much the lineup that we had predicted in the match preview, and this lineup is the best Real Madrid have at the moment. Obviously we have Carvajal who will slot in the right back position instead of Vasquez, but with the current players at our disposal, this is as good as it can get for Real. In the big matches, we should pretty much expect the same players. Of course, Modric may also be given a nod in few matches to start. Moving on to how Real Madrid set up. As expected, they set up in the 4-3-3. On the other hand, Inter Milan set up in the 3-5-2 with two strikers being Lautaro Martinez and Perisic. Talking more about Real Madrid, let's have a closer look at their gameplay. One thing which was very noticeable was the high back line that Real Madrid had kept. Add to that, it also seemed that Ramos and Varane were marking the two strikers up front, and rightly from the very beginning, we saw glimpses of the tactics of Antonio Conte. Inter's wing-backs, seeing the high backline, used to try and find out the front two, making runs past the backline, and sometimes we also used to see the strikers dropping deep to get the ball, and we saw Lautaro Martinez doing that quite often. The strikers used to try and find out the wing-backs who used to try and get in behind the defense. This is where Hakimi's role was very important for Inter Milan. Coming back to Real Madrid, in the first half we saw Real Madrid try to play from the back, but it used to get very difficult at times. The players of Inter Milan used to press high and it used to get difficult playing from the back. So what did Real Madrid do to counter that? As you see in this picture, Kroos had dropped deep in between Ramos and Varane to give them the extra passing option. And then have a look at this picture. Casemiro had dropped deep in between Ramos and Varane. Both Casemiro and Kroos alternatively occupied the role, and in order to neutralize the strong midfield presence of Inter, what we did see was that Vasquez and Mendy were in a little bit more advanced position to help the midfielders in the link-up plays and help them build attacks. We saw this high backline being exploited early on as Inter created chances. Have a look at this picture in the 9th minute. It was a counter and it was a 3 versus 2 situation with Hakimi running down the right wing. Had Hakimi made a better pass, Lautaro and Perisic were both waiting to make the best of that chance. But the pass was overhit and subsequently Lautaro came close to scoring from a cross of Perisic. On this note, let's tactically analyze how Real Madrid conceded the first goal. We saw how one of the midfielders was dropping in between Ramos and Varane, and this time it was the combination of the aggressiveness of Ramos and Casemiro not being in between Ramos and Varane which provided the space that Lautaro needed for the goal. Have a look at the positioning of Casemiro just a few seconds before the goal. He was just beside Ramos as a part of the backline. Few seconds later, he left the position to press Brozovic, leaving a gap between Ramos and Varane. Brozovic passed to Barella and Ramos pulled himself towards Barella, but the flick of Barella was very accurate. Varane was not able to cover for that quickly, and Lautaro, like a tiger, jumped on his prey, took the chance with sheer clinicality. Speaking about the attack of Real Madrid, we had 37% of our attack coming from the left, 36% coming from the right, and 27% through the center. Obviously, early on Hazard was also deputized on the left, and then Benzema also used to drop to the left side of attack to try and create chances. Mendy was in a bit more withdrawn role. He was trusted with the responsibility of containing Hakimi and any attack from the right. And apart from a few occasions, he did well to contain Achraf Hakimi. The presence of Mendy was very important, and we had spoken about it earlier, how his defensive cover would be very important to cut out the danger from the wingback. On the right side of our attack, we saw Asensio and Vasquez interchange their roles throughout the game. As you see in this picture, Asensio is covering for Vasquez as he was doing the offensive work, and Vasquez, apart from being a bit at fault for the second goal, he played pretty well. He made a few good runs. He was the one who had put in the cross for Benzema, which he headed down to create a chance for Valverde in the 21st minute. Vasquez also had the most touches for any Real Madrid player. He had a pass completion rate which was close to 90%, and his involvement in attack can be highlighted by the 3 key passes which he made during the game. Pretty decent numbers there, and it was not just Vasquez who got many touches. The rest of the defenders, Ramos, Varane and Mendy, also had a good number of touches, and it was down to Real Madrid's desire to play from the back, which saw the increased involvement of our defenders. Moving on, we saw both the teams play with high intensity due to the importance of getting a good result in the match, and Real Madrid pressed very well early on. We had seen that both Ramos and Varane had gone man to man, and together with the midfielders, they ensured that the two strikers of Real used to get less time on the ball, and quite often, they used to lose possession of the ball. The Real Madrid players quickly swarmed around the Inter strikers to avert the danger, but this high press obviously was not sustainable. We saw that in the second half the players had worn out due to the effort they had put in the first half, and the fatigue was quite evident in the way Casemiro was playing. He was a bit off color, Casemiro. Early on, he did make a few interceptions, but later on, he was being dispossessed, he was misplacing simple passes. If we have a look at his stats, he had a pass completion rate of 74%, and that is poor by Real Madrid standards. He was also at fault for the second goal that Inter had scored. Casemiro had lost possession in the build-up of the goal. Subsequently, Ramos had come out of his position aggressively to cut out the danger, but he could not clear properly, and the ball fell for Vidal. Vidal saw the space left by Ramos out of position, and Lautaro was calling for the ball. Vidal then floats the ball in the direction of Lautaro, and then he made a simple headed pass for Perisic, who got the goal. You can say Vasquez was a little bit at fault there. He could have been a bit more aggressive, but that is what you get from a converted right back. We will never get the physicality that Carvajal brings. But Vasquez, apart from that, as we have spoken earlier, played well and did a good job in containing Ashley Young. I think the subs that were made by Zidane were very important in getting us the third goal. Hazard and Asensio were taken off for Vinicius and Rodrygo, and after that, we saw some good wing play from both the youngsters. Real were being dominated by Inter in the second half, and the link-up play of Hazard, Asensio and Benzema was not very good. And hence, the Brazilian duo provided the much-needed directness in play. Of course, their pace was a bit difficult to handle by the tired legs of Inter Milan. Both the teams were looking to get the goal. It was an aggressive substitution made by Zidane, and it paid off as Rodrygo bagged the winner. Conte had also made a few subs which I think did play a role in them going behind. He took off Barella, which was understandable as he was on a yellow, and he brought on Sanchez for Perisic, which were straight subs. Had he been a bit defensive with his subs, put in an extra man to help out defensively here, I think he could have scraped a point away. But thankfully for us, that was not the case, and the 19-year-old got the winner for Real Madrid. So that is my analysis of the tactics for Real Madrid versus Inter game. Now in the upcoming videos, we will be talking about Real Madrid in the context of La Liga, as we have a big match coming up against Valencia. Let me know what you thought about my tactical analysis and the performance of our players. I will love to engage with you in the comment section below. If you liked it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more Real Madrid content. I will see you soon. Till then, take care. Glory to Madrid, and as always, Hala Madrid. Yeah.